From taking a background in athletics and a Polynesian family heritage, Kekoa Nawahine was able to parlay athletics and his family values into a successful career in commercial real estate, working at Allquist Development here in Meridian, Idaho. Today we're going to be visiting with Kekoa about his journey through athletics, his time at Boise State, serving a mission, ultimately now as a husband and father, and his career in commercial real estate. We're going to talk to Kekoa about all the things that he wishes he would have known growing up, the experiences that he had, great leaders and mentors and people like Coach Pete that have been able to impact his life. So we have a lot of things on the podcast today. We're excited to have Kekoa Nawahine here joining us.
Psychologically, that's a good thing for kids to have to go through and have to overcome adversity, not just be like, oh, hey, I was basically handed everything my whole life because I was really tall or I was really fast or whatever the case is, right?
But just how inviting and welcoming people can be and treating people like family.
And it's harder now than ever because there's so many distractions, right? Like you can pick up your phone intending to do something, to read something, to learn about something, and boom, you get 15 different notifications that pop up. And if you got to address this thing, a text comes through, an email comes through. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on here.
So anyone that doesn't know Kekoa yet, this dude is a former Division I athlete, football player at Boise State, and now a rising star in the commercial development world here in Boise, Idaho. So maybe let's jump in, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's maybe start early on, what life was like growing up, and kind of work through like your family, your growing up years, talk about your parents and siblings and all that stuff, and then actually talk about your wife and you have 2 kids, right?
Yep, 2 kids. Yeah. So I've been, born and raised in the Treasure Valley. I was actually born in Ontario, so right across the border. And then we moved to Fruitland right about the start of 3rd grade. And so I was in Fruitland until high school and then came up here to Rocky Mountain. And so growing up, I have 4 brothers and a sister. I'm the 3rd. Out of us 6, and so I'm right in the middle. A good bridge between the older 2 and the younger 3.
Yeah.
My older 2 siblings are like a year and a half apart, and then it goes 5 years, and then it's me, and then 5 years.
Oh wow.
And my 3 little brothers that are all year.
Okay.
So really close groupings, and then me just kind of
right in the middle.
Right in the middle on an island, and so allowed me to, like I said, kind of be that bridge between within a family dynamic of being more with the older siblings for a long time, and then also being able to grow up and be with my younger little brothers.
We had a similar dynamic in my family growing up where my brother and I were really close, and then we have a sister that was a few years younger, and then big gap, and then 2 more little brothers, right? So it's kind of like the older brothers, the little brothers, and then we had a sister right in the middle, but in this case, you're the one that kind of had to bridge the gap there.
Yeah, exactly. And so, with a lot of us, like just in our family, sports were like the thing growing up. We had a big deal. Everyone played sports. And being in a small town like Fruitland, for as long as we were, you play all the sports too. It's a big thing nowadays, especially in these bigger cities. It's like, well, what sport are you specializing in early on too? And that was never the case for us. Even when we moved up here, still played football and basketball in high school, and allowed me to, I just loved all the sports. Like I still do love like playing whatever. I'm going to go play pickleball, play badminton. It doesn't really matter. Like play a lot of volleyball, a lot of beach volleyball now. Just like being active and competing.
Yeah.
And so having that experience early on where I'm playing sports with my family and all my extended family and friends, I think really built, kind of just my identity and our identity as a family of what we enjoy spending time together doing, but also just getting a wide range of a lot of different experiences. Because when you focus on, I see a lot of kids nowadays, when you focus solely on one sport, 1, there can be burnout, obviously,
for sure,
when that's your sole focus. But 2, like just for your body, moving in that same way, injuries are a lot more prone to happen and things. So always grateful for the fact that I came from a small town where that was kind of expected anyways, and just carrying that on.
Yeah, well, while you're kind of on the topic, let's talk about that. what advice would you give to young athletes? Like, there is so much pressure to specialize in one particular sport, whether that's football or basketball or baseball or hockey or whatever it is, right? Like, kids are getting pushed at a really, really early age to specialize in one thing. And like you said, you get the burnout, increased likelihood for injuries because they're doing the same repeated movements over and over and over again. Not to mention like the psychological impact on it, right? Like, I think there's a lot of value to a kid that maybe, let's say this kid's really tall, so they're going to get picked for every basketball team, right? Like, they're going to get picked for the best basketball teams because the kid's 6'5" in the 8th grade, but the kid can't swing a baseball bat, or maybe he's not really coordinated on the football field, is not used to hitting people, is not used to being physical, not used to, maybe having to move laterally as much. And so now you go from being the star player on the basketball team to now all of a sudden, like, you're competing even to have a spot in one of these other sports. I think that psychologically, like, that's a good thing for kids to have to go through and have to overcome adversity, not just be like, oh, hey, like, I was basically handed everything my whole life because I was really tall or I was really, fast or whatever the case is, right? Right. So maybe talk about what your experience was that way and advice that you'd give to parents or younger athletes.
Yeah, just building on that, I think that is a great aspect of playing a lot of sports, is the psychological aspect to it in that sense, because as you know, and as everybody knows, like, you're faced with adversity in life, in everything that you do. And if you're solely set into something where you thrive and, things come easy, there's going to come a point where you're not really equipped with the tools to handle the adversity that's bound to come. And so that learning curve might be a lot harder for you in that moment. So starting young, and my advice, to answer your original question, my advice to any kids would be play as much sports as you can. And within those sports, play as many positions as you can. Yeah. Do as much as you can for as long as you can. For all the reasons that we talked about, like, for your body, it's good for your body to train in different ways. So when I was growing up until high school, I played baseball, but I was mostly a catcher for a long time, played shortstop, second, kind of all over the place, but mostly a catcher. And one of my strengths in football at Boise State was kind of like my ball tracking, ball skills. Yeah. And a lot of that, I think, comes from baseball. Yeah. Just being able to catch a baseball, hit a baseball, track the way that it's moving. Yeah. And so a football in the air, you gain a lot of the same skills. For sure. And I'll say this now still, and I'll stand by this, but you see a lot of athletes that come into Boise State, and they're freak athletes, like especially DBs, right? Because that was what I was playing. They're great athletes, and then they just can't catch a ball. Yeah. And it's always the stigma that comes out, well, that's why you play DB instead of receiver, which I always hated. Yeah. But it always surprised me. It's like, oh, you ask them kind of what sports they played. Well, I was from a big school, and I really only played football. Yep. Maybe a little bit of basketball or something, maybe some of a little bit of sport, but it's mostly I only played this sport. And so you see where that could be a disadvantage in that sense for kids that want to play at the next level. Even I've always known that I wanted to play football at the next level, like by far my favorite sport, what I wanted to do. And I think it would have done me a big disservice if I only would have focused on football throughout my young childhood. So my advice is to play as many sports as you can and play as many positions you can within that sport. I played safety at Boise State, but I didn't ever play safety in football until my sophomore year of high school. And so I was a running back and a linebacker all the way through until I started to, kind of grow into my body and matured. Yeah. Then they moved me to safety and receiver. And so it wasn't even until I was in high school until I started playing what I played in college. So I don't think that's as big of a deal. Yeah. I don't think it matters as much if you focus on one sport. I think exposure to a lot of different sports physically is really good. Mentally challenging yourself, like you said, if there's things that we can really excel at in other areas that we have to work harder at, I think that's good for us in the long run. And at the end of the day, sports teach us a lot of values that you'll carry on throughout your whole life.
Because at some point, sports is going to end for everyone, right? Like you're Tom Brady, Cam Wheeler, Kekoa Nawahine, right? Like at some point, it ends for everyone. And the only thing you get from that is the memories and the lessons. Like, what did you take away from it? What did it teach you? What did you gain from that? And how does that positively impact the rest of your life? And there's some people that sports doesn't positively impact their life, right? Like I'm a firm believer that like some people, some kids, some parents, some coaches, like the lessons that they get taught, the focus that's put on it, like sports becomes a detriment to them because they were so entitled, or they were given so many things, or they didn't have to work for things, or they had coaches that were teaching them to do things the wrong way or to cut corners. And so they build that pattern in life. But I think that for most kids, if you have good coaches, if you have parents that see sports for what it is rather than trying to live vicariously through their kids, I think that sports can be a great thing to teach tools, experiences, and to help give you lessons that you can carry with you for the rest of your life, right? You learn to work as a team. You learn to overcome adversity. You learn how to do hard things, to get up early in the morning, to play hurt, to sacrifice, to have a job, to have a role, to, be part of a team, to, carry on whatever that may look like for you, to be able to change and to adapt. And like all those lessons that sports can teach you can be such a value in your life. But at the end of the day, it's going to end for everyone at some point. And what did you take from it? And how's that going to positively impact you? The other thing that I think why it's important for kids to play multiple sports is building a self-identity. And I think that it's great to want to be a football player, but that's not who you are. That's something that you do, right? Whether it's football, baseball, basketball, anything else. Like sports is something you do. It's not just who you are, right? You're defined by so many more things than just what your job is, what sport you play, where you grew up. Like those are pieces, but that's not who you are. And so maybe let's kind of get into that a little bit more. I think that it's easy to get a label as like, oh, Kekoa was a great football player. This is what you do for a living now. But like you're a person, right? Those are things you do. That's not who you are. Let's kind of talk about like your family. Obviously, your dad's Hawaiian. Maybe talk about that and kind of like your cultural heritage and the impact that that's had on your life, and I guess what that looks like and how that continues to play a role for you.
Yeah. Just the way that I was raised, and especially in the Polynesian culture, but a big emphasis that my parents made, and especially my dad, was family, and how important the family unit is in society, but just in general.
Yeah.
As being, where you need to spend your energy and your focus cultivating those relationships within your family, because those are the ones that are always going to be there for you. And I mean, I understand, obviously, not every single family situation is like that, and things are different.
It's ideal though, right? It's ideal.
Yeah, for sure, ideal. And the way that we were raised was that we were always going to take care of each other, and the family unit was what was most important. And that's always shaped the way that, I mean, that's all I've known growing up, right? You see that, my dad kind of setting the example, and my mom making that important to us. And then when you're with cousins, we're with cousins, we're with aunts, uncles all the time, especially in the Polynesian culture, families are big. And so we're around families all the time and just taking care of each other. It takes a village type of mentality where, you have people that you can rely on all the time. And so I'm really close with all my extended family on both sides, because of the emphasis that was made early on. And just, I just love those people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially obviously my siblings, like those are the people that mean the most to me. And so that family unit was always central to me. And I always knew that when I was raising my own family, that's kind of the values that I wanted to instill as well. And so having two little kids, that I get to teach in that way of how we treat each other and what really means the most. I mean, you're going to fight when you have siblings, you're going to have hard times, all those things, right? Like that just happens. But knowing at the end of the day that these are the people that we care the most about, these are the people that we take care of, is a really big value for me. And just letting that extend. You know what I appreciate, especially about the Polynesian culture, but just how inviting and welcoming people can be and treating people like family, right? And so anytime that I'm going somewhere and knowing that I'm going to get taken care of, or my kids like going somewhere and knowing that they're going to get taken care of by that type of mentality, by that culture, and by my family members, means a lot. And so being able to, I appreciate that a lot. And so being able to try to, create those same feelings for others, knowing that, hey, if you're ever in town, you need a place to stay, you need a meal, you need whatever it is, like being opening, kind of like open door policy like that. I really appreciate that concept as well. And so that was just the way that we were raised, growing up in middle school and high school. People were just in and out of the house all the time. Friends are hanging out, whatever it is. Like yeah, something's in the fridge, go, like help yourself sort of thing. And just, I've always loved that. And so wanted to be able to recreate.
How do you feel like
others
that's
as well.
impacted you in your career? That mindset and mentality.
I think at the end, like in career wise and just in life, as I've started to see and going a little bit back towards when you're talking about kind of your identity and being more than an athlete, as you start to experience life outside of sports, what really matters the most, similar to the family situation, is just relationships with people, right? And just like having a genuine relationship with someone and a connection with someone and helping them understand that you genuinely care about their well-being and want what's best for them. And so that going into a career of just having a genuine approach to, hey, you need help? Say I focus on leasing at Alquist and helping businesses find space for their home for their business that they're looking for. If you need help, this is how we can help. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, like there's no hard feelings between either of us, because at the end of the day, we're both going to be able to figure it out. But understanding that where we're coming from, like this is so much more than just a transaction. To me, this is where I'm raising my family. This is where I've been raised in this community. And so, one, it matters to me, your interaction with me and the relationship that we have. So you understand that I'm coming from a genuine place. And also what we do, we as an Alquist in these developments, like what we do and being done the right way also matters to me. Yeah. I'm trying to create a place that I'm proud of raising my family in. And so where that shows up,
values.
right, my values. And so where that shows up is just trying to approach relationships not as transactional, but as like building a genuine connection with somebody.
Yeah. No, and you see that with anyone that's successful, that they care about who they're working with, right? Whether you're coaching football, whether you're leasing spaces, whether you're, building and selling companies or whatever it is, that people care about people. And it's a lot more than just a transaction, right? Like you're focused on, by helping this other person get what they want, that ultimately I get what I want. And I'd love that, right? Like I'd love that belief that the true way to happiness is by helping other people find happiness and by genuinely caring about them and what's best for them. I was fortunate enough, I grew up and we had a group of Polynesian kids my age that I went to high school with and grew up around and went to church with and whatever. But like I was really grateful to be surrounded by that, because like I did and I do, right? Like I still feel like family. Like I see their parents around or friends or cousins or whatever. I have kids that play football for me that are all kind of from the same extended family. And it's like that culture is infectious. I mean, I tell my wife every time I go to Hawaii, I just want to stay there forever, because, like that family culture and mentality and that feeling of just like being welcoming. And I think that it's infectious, and I think that it's an advantage to when you see the world that way, that just naturally carries over into what you do professionally.
Yeah, for sure. And so I think that really comes into effect when you creates more opportunities to not only get, but just grow.
Yeah.
And create more of what I personally would want around me and want my kids to be able to experience and different things like that. And what's great about being here in the Treasure Valley in Boise is you get to meet a lot of people that are like that.
Yeah.
A lot of down to earth people that share those same values.
No, for sure. Let's talk about that a little bit more in your growing up. So I am curious, that you and I have never talked about this, making the move from Fruitland. So I, knew your dad, knew his business, and, had been acquainted at some level early on, like long before I ever met you. But making the move from Fruitland to Meridian, in particular, to come to Rocky Mountain, right? Like Rocky Mountain football powerhouse school, and has been for a long time. Talk to us about what was the impetus behind that decision to leave Fruitland and to come over here. Was it to get more exposure, better competition, bigger school? Like what was kind of the impetus behind leaving Fruitland to come over here?
Yeah, mostly more opportunity.
Yeah.
Like you said, Fruitland was great. I mean, athletically, they've been a great school as well.
For sure.
Just smaller, though, and less opportunity in training in the off season, and obviously the sports and exposure that you're getting going to a bigger school like that. And so just a lot more opportunity was kind of the general reasoning behind the move, I would say, and being able to be in a place where, like I said, since I was little, I knew that I wanted to play at the Division I level.
Yeah.
Wherever that looked, and obviously growing up watching Boise State was kind of the pinnacle of where I wanted to be. And so coming over in more opportunity, we were coming up in 8th grade. We'd drive up here from Fruitland in the off season throughout the week to train and do stuff like that. And so it was already like I said, just more opportunities, and it was easier to do it in that sense. And so when we came, I actually went to Bishop Kelly for the first half of my freshman year. We were moving up here, and the house we were looking at was across the street from Lee Leslie. I don't know if you know who he
I
is.
just spent the weekend with Lee Leslie.
Oh, did you?
Up in McCall.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
Yeah, awesome family. And so he was the head coach at Bishop Kelly at the time, and came out and talked to us, and we were like, well, this might be a good fit, coming from Fruitland to Bishop Kelly, not as big of like a jump, and I really liked Lee, and so that's where I went my first year.
Yeah, legend.
Yeah, right. And so I had a really good time. Even in that short time there, like there was just some really cool people and good friendships that I had developed. And then I made the switch over to Rocky Mountain. Yeah, it was great. I loved Rocky Mountain. I'm really glad. I loved our time in Fruitland. A lot of great people there, and just loved the switch over to Rocky Mountain. It felt like a better fit for the goals that I had.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So talk us through the recruiting process, what that looked like, making the decision to go sort of mission. Who were some of the people or impacts that happened in your life? Kind of talk to us through that whole process of as you're kind of coming up through high school and having to make some difficult decisions.
Yeah, the recruiting process was really interesting for me, just in general. It was like I would say it was at a time where it's not like now where there's so many ways to access coaches, get your film out, and do all these different things. Like, I didn't really know what I was doing or ways to get exposure other than the help that I had gotten from our head coach, Kreiner, my senior year. I think he helped a lot. Up until that point, it was a lot of going to college camps in the off season and trying to get exposure that way. So I went to Boise State's camp every year of high school. And then especially the summer of my junior year going into my senior year, I think I went to probably 6 camps in the month of June. I went to Utah's camp, Weber State, BYU, the all poly camp, Boise State. Just a bunch, to go to as many as I could in that time frame. And if looking back on it, if I could do it differently at that time, I think and I'd use this as advice for kids that are, and obviously it's different now because there's a lot of ways that they can do it. But if you're going to a camp, try to reach out to the staff or coaches beforehand in some form or fashion so that they know you. Because what I realized that a lot of that time, and it's not every time, but a lot of those camps, they have their kids that they're already looking at that are coming, that they know of are coming. Or you could have kids that open their eyes or shock them, right? Obviously. But it's definitely more helpful if they know that you're there and you're on their radar.
They're putting their arm around you. They're coming and talking to you.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And so that's what I would have done differently in my recruiting process, I would say, at the time. Other than that, it was a lot of, this is what I know that I want to do. I'm not really sure how I'm going to get there, but my parents are really supportive in sending me to a lot of camps. And then obviously when Kreiner came in, he was only there for my senior year. The new coaching staff, when he came in, he also helped a lot in just reaching out to different coaches and connecting me with them. And so my senior year, before we went into the playoffs, we were going to play Highland in the playoffs. Coach Kreiner was like, hey, you got a meeting with Coach Pete tonight. He wants to meet with you and your parents. I think you'll enjoy the meeting or whatever is all he said. And I was like, okay. I still don't even know what that means, really. Yeah. Like, I was just so far.
Conversing with Coach Pete or anyone on the Boise State staff up to this point?
A little bit. By that point, I did a little bit. Not a ton, though. But they knew, like, so at the time, they were recruiting me and Khalil Oliver.
Okay.
Khalil was also a safety on the team. And so I've always had like a chip on my shoulder, I would say, growing up, because I always felt like I was better than, in this example, like the way that I was being treated. And so I would go to this recruiting trip to Boise State, and me and Chloe would be there, and like the coaches, didn't even really talk to me at all. They'd be like, go up to Khalil, and be like, oh, what's up? And Khalil was like one of my best friends in high school. So it wasn't like a jealousy thing, but it was me, it was like,
They think he's
weird,
better than him.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it was just like no sort of treatment at all. It was just like, I'm kind of like here as a guest, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so, well, I like just from growing up, I've always had that. You come from a small school too. You kind of just have like a chip on your shoulder type of mentality. And so, Coach Pete came to our game against Mountain View, and in high school, our kicker had broken his leg in the off season, so they asked me to kick. I was playing receiver and safety at the time, and he came to our Mountain View game and had a good game, but never even talked to him after, and was just like, okay, well, hopefully I don't know, right? Like, hopefully, I felt like well, yeah, I think I played well, but didn't hear from him, and then he's like, yeah, you got a meeting with Coach Pete tonight, and so we go into his office, and awesome guy, like just.
So you go to Coach Pete's office.
Yep, yeah. Go to Coach Pete's office with my parents. Still really like vivid memory for me, just because of how special that was. But go with him, talk to him for a long time, and just meet with him and my parents. And he's like, well, your offer, there's an envelope on the table. And he's like, your offer's on the table. And at the time, I still didn't know. Like, I'm pretty sure now at the Division I level, you either get full ride offer or not. But I was like, oh, I wonder like what it is, like my offer, what that looks like or whatever. And so we take it out into the parking lot and see that he had offered a full ride, and we were just getting all excited, with my parents, just jumping up and down in the parking lot, and just like the sunset really punching the chest right after. Yeah, probably. I don't know, but it was just like a really cool feeling and experience to not only meet with him, but just, I mean, there's a reason that people like that are as well respected, as successful, and all the things as they are, is because he's just as good as they say about him, I mean, like just a solid dude. And so having that experience, and then, being able to finally just feel like you've been able to accomplish something you've been working so hard for, was a really cool experience. And being able to share that with my parents. And so that was kind of my recruiting process. It was just like, I don't really know, but I'm just going to put my head down and keep working, and prove why I feel like I belong at that level. And it ended up working out, and Boise State was my first and only offer. I committed to them that week. It wasn't like, oh, let me see, kind of. There was a couple other schools that wanted me to go out and take visits, like BYU wanted me to go out and visit, but I was like, I know this is where I want to go play, and obviously for Coach Pete too, which didn't work out because he left, but it didn't matter, and I knew that that's where I wanted to play, and so committed to them, and was good.
So let's talk about athletically, and then we can kind of transition this career-wise as well. You and I share a favorite quote, that the separations and the preparation. What were the things that you did growing up, or even like in high school, that you felt like helped separate you from other people, right? Like, obviously you're very talented, right? Like, out of the box, it's like, okay, Kekoa's a great athlete, good stature, like, you have certain physical gifts that are just innate. But what were the things that you did? Like, what did that training schedule look like for you? If you were looking back, like, hey, I'm so glad that I did these things, what would those things be?
Yeah. And I think, like, to your point, at that level, say the Division I level, everyone has those. Everyone's talented. Yeah. Everyone is athletic. Everyone has that. And so and even one step further at the professional level, where do you separate yourself? And it is in that preparation. It is in those things. And so in high school, like I was saying, we were driving up in 8th grade, training in the off season every week. Once we got up here into high school, we were going to off the field, and at the time it was Parisi.
Yeah.
I was what I called down at the Gold's Gym over there.
Yeah, I remember driving my little brothers there all the time.
Yeah, and so that's where I had started training, and
AJ Storms and Levi Madrietta, I think were.
Yep. Yeah, I was training with Levi for a long time, and it was just like, it was kind of what was expected, I guess. Like, I didn't know any better. Like, if you want to be good at something, you have to spend the time. Like, yeah, a lot of people are talented and gifted, but the people that really separate themselves have spent so much more time. Like, I think there's a funny quote. I think it's, I'm forgetting his name, but he's a motivational speaker too. I think it's Eric something, but he's like, you say you're not good at math because you've never done math before. And it's like, I just think it's a funny way of saying it, obviously, but it's like, yeah, like where you spend your time is where you're going to get better. And so the training that I did in the off season, I would go, I mean, that's why I stopped playing baseball. I loved baseball, but out of the three, it was my least favorite. And I wanted to have a season where I could focus on being more explosive or whatever training that looked like in the off season. And so stopped playing baseball to just focus solely on training, and was blessed that my parents were able to provide those opportunities for me to go play or to go train at a facility like that. But that was such a huge help in my high school career, especially. And the things that off the field able to do now with kids and how they train, and just really understanding how to maximize your body movements, how to be explosive and all those things was really helpful to me, especially in high school, and separating like one physically, but also injury prevention, like football, especially not being injured is half the battle. Like if you can stay healthy and
Greatest ability is availability.
right, right, exactly. And so like training your body in certain ways so that you have more resilience and are more capable of avoiding injury was also big, and understanding those things. And so to me, it was always like, I want to understand, like I want to be coached. I want to understand how I'm supposed to move. Like what does a perfect rep look like? And just trying to get there, and repping it until I can, and not being scared of being wrong, and how long it's going to take to get to that point. I think my dad was always, he was always our coach growing up, but just always really hard on us. Not in like a bad way, but in a way like expected us to continue to work hard and expected greatness from us. And so it was just like an expectation where you spend your time and your focus is where you're going to grow. And you just have to keep spending time until you get to where you want to be. And that was my focus a lot in high school. And then once I got to college, Avalos was the DC at the time. And my freshman year, and this is a whole long story that you could offer, but like coming off of my mission, I got back from my mission 10 days before.
So let's rewind a little bit. I want to get to the story.
Yeah.
Let's rewind a little bit. Like obviously you had a difficult decision to make.
Yeah.
Here you are getting your dream offer, come play at Boise State. Coach Pete offers you accept.
Right.
Now at the same time, you're having to make decisions about, okay, am I going on a mission or am I playing football?
Right. Yeah. So running a little bit further back, so Coach Pete's staff had left, and that was when Coach Harsin brought his crew in. Avalos was one of the few that had stayed there from Coach Pete's staff, and so Avalos was the recruiter that I had known. So I knew him, I was familiar with him, but the DC that came in, because I got offered as an athlete, they didn't know if I was going to be a receiver or a safety. He's like, we're not sure what you are, but his thing was, OKG, you're our kind of guy.
Oh, yeah.
And so once the new staff came in there, they had been to one of our practices, and they're like, yeah, we want you on defense. And I was like, okay, sweet. I didn't really care what it was. And I was like, okay, sweet. And they were pushing really hard. Like, they're really pushing my mom really hard. Like, hey, he can stay here. He doesn't need to go on a mission. And my whole life, it was, I'm going to serve a mission. My older brother went on a mission. And that was just, being raised in the church. That was kind of the expectation. I wanted to do that as well. And then you have these things coming, kind of clashing at each other, where this has been a lifelong dream of mine to go play at Boise State, let alone, the Division I level. And now it's getting real. I have to decide if I'm going to go leave that for 2 years. And then it's easy for doubts and fears to start to creep in when people are like, oh, you're playing a skilled position and you're going to go leave football for 2 years, and that's really hard to come back to, and who knows what your career is going to look like, or whatever. You can stay here and serve your mission here and help people here and all these things. I'd heard it all, and the coaches were trying to, pressing my mom, and my mom was like, if you don't know my mom, she can be very persuasive. And so especially at that time in my life, she was trying really hard for me not to go on a mission as well. So easily one of the most difficult decisions that I've had to make in my life.
It's a lot.
And was really
18-year-old kid.
Yeah, 18-year-old kid, was really back and forth for a long time, for months, and just like genuinely not knowing what I was going to do. And I got to the point where I was like, maybe I'll just stay. Like, maybe I'll stay and play, and that's what's right for me. Because I've been praying for like months, and I just still like, I don't know, like maybe this is right. Like, who knows? And I had prayed one last time. I was like, okay, I'm like, I think this is what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna stay here and not go. Is that right? And didn't feel anything. Um, so then the next day I was like, well, let's try my last time, and if I don't really feel anything, I'll stay. And it was like, hey, do I need to serve a mission? And like instantly just had this feeling of just complete peace and calm that was what I needed to do, and everything was going to work out. Like if I just trusted him. And I was like, okay, like it was just undeniable. I was like, okay, I have my answer. I know what I need to do. And everything became much easier after that. Like telling my mom no, you know what I mean? Like, sorry, like I know what I want. Yeah, telling the coaches, like, it's going to work out. It'll be all right. And just having that faith in that answer was a lot easier from that point after having that. And so, at that point, it was clear. And then, you go over the 2 mission and time over the 2 years and time over your mission where it's like, things are still coming in. Now it's like, oh,
Where'd you get your call to? Where'd you serve your mission at?
Canada, Calgary.
Okay.
Yeah, so Southern Alberta. I was up there in the cold. And honestly, I was like, my older brother had went to the Marshall Islands. I wanted to go somewhere, kind of like developing country, learn a language. Canada didn't even register as like an option for me. But I loved it. It was an amazing place. And like we've talked about earlier, like it just comes down to the people. You know what I mean? Like the people that you meet and the relationships that you develop. So beautiful up there. There's some really beautiful spots up there.
Yeah.
For sure. So Banff, Waterton areas, like really cool.
I've been to both those places many
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
So you come back from your mission.
Yeah.
10 days later.
Yeah. Come back from a mission 10 days later, report for like summer training, summer camp. And I had tried to stay pretty active, like on my mission, lifts and workouts, especially knowing that I was coming back and getting right into it. Yeah. But there's nothing like being on your own on a mission and trying to do that, and then coming back in a team setting dynamic where there's a lot of other people that are also really athletic that are pushing each other. And so like physically was exhausted. One of the first workouts I did was running the stadium decks that we do every week during the summer. And we were we just had to run like 6, you know what I mean? Like that's what you start at. And the older guys were at like 8 or 10 or something. I was like, no, I'm going to run with the 10. Like I'm going to go with them. I'm not going to do it. And I'm going to beat them too. Like when I start. And so the first rep, I was actually like first rep did pretty good. And then just tanked a huge tank. Like I was like walking up by the 6th rep, I couldn't go anymore. So that is one of my more regretful moments. I just like I can't do more than 6. That muscle set. It's like I can't move. So that was a good wake up call. But going back to kind of the preparation, the biggest thing my freshman year, and going back to Avalos, he was the DC at the time. My goal coming off my mission, especially with all of like the things that I'd heard and things that people were telling me, my goal was to start my freshman year, coming back. And so as you go through like fall camp, they kind of bring you in and they're like, especially the freshmen, they tell you if they're going to redshirt you or what they're going to do. And I had a good fall camp as I'm just like trying to learn things. Once I got back into football and after my mission, I think I would have felt this way even coming without a mission. Like I felt like I'd never played football before on the mental side of it. I'm like cover 4, like that's pretty simple, like 4D, right? Like no, there's so many, like you have all these checks based on formation. I'm like, what? Like that's a thing? Like you can do all these different things. And so just our base calls, I'm like, wow, it's like a huge learning curve in general, let alone being away from that for 2 months or 2 years. I don't even know what that looks like. And so the mental side of it was the most difficult. Like you get into shape pretty quickly when you're doing that, and understanding the playbook was really hard. So I had a good fall camp. They decided not to redshirt me, and I went from like in fall camp because it's new coaches, right? Like none of these guys know me.
Yeah.
All the new staff that's in, and so they had their guys especially the freshmen and the people that were already there. They had their guys that they had recruited and were working with and knew. So I was like, they split the fall camp into 2 days or 2 practices. The first practice was like freshmen and younger guys that hadn't played much, and then the other practice was the rest of the team. So I was like third string on the freshman side. You know what I'm saying? Like, and there's like six levels of it, right? So I was like bottom of the barrel. Yeah, and I was like, well, the good thing is like I just have never thought that. Like I've never thought. I've always thought like just a pure belief in who I am, and I'm like, no, I deserve to be here, and I'm gonna work till I get in this spot, I think. And so, good camp. I ended up being second string, like just in general, after camp, and they're like, not gonna redshirt. And so, getting there now to Avalos, there were so many times where I'm like trying to learn the playbook and trying to understand it, and there's so many communications, especially at the safety spot, that you need to like help the linebackers, help the D line, especially on your side, like know what our checks and calls are. And there's so many things I'm like, I just wasn't getting it early on, like just trying to work at it. And I would just get, to keep it PG, like I would just get chewed out by Avalos like all the time. Almost to the point where sometimes, and I loved Avalos, that guy's a DC, great guy, to the point where I'm like, it feels a little more personal than football. I don't know how we're getting there, like, because I don't know the checks, but I'm like, dude, I'm trying, like, I don't know. I just don't know it, literally. And so that was a wake-up call for me, especially, like, I'm remembering, like, a specific time where I just got chewed out. He stopped the play and was just chewing me out in front of everybody. I was like, dang. Like, yeah, it sucked. Like, it really did. I'm like, dang, I don't want to feel like this. Ever moving forward. And so that preparation of like, what is our playbook? How do I study this in a way where I'm out on the field? And Winston Venable gave me really good advice too. He was like, you want to be the type of person, especially in that position, where the people around you know that you're there and want you in there. They notice when you're gone, sort of thing. And at the time, I clearly wasn't the case. You know what I mean? I'm a young guy that's trying to figure it out, and I'm not having this commanding presence. And so I wanted to understand it in such a way that I'm telling the D end, hey, you got this. If you don't know what it is, not even just our check, like, hey, you got this. Or I'm telling our corner, like, hey, you can play this a certain way, like pre-snap, because I got you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just taking it to the next level of understanding. And obviously that was built throughout my career there, but so much time was spent in the film room and in our playbook of like, this is what it is, this is what it is, to the point where you understand where I finally was able to understand, and I didn't get yelled at like that again. Moving forward, I got yelled at plenty of times, but not for not communicating and not knowing what I was doing. And so, long story short of saying, like, where you spend your time is where you're gonna grow, and you will grow in wherever you spend your time. Like, I know that's a simple concept, but like sometimes it's really easy for us to feel overwhelmed and like we're not where we need to be in a certain scenario in our life, stage in our life. But it's possible by just spending your time and just working at it and just getting there. So that was my learning curve. And the separation is in the preparation for sure.
So let's talk. How did you get involved? Your connection with Tommy, where did that start? And then ultimately, transitioning once you finished your career at Boise State to transitioning over to BVA, now Alquist. Talk about that if you would, and that impact.
Yeah. So Tommy was actually my stake president when I went on my mission. So he's the one that set me apart as a missionary and released me when I got home. And so that was when I was first introduced to Tommy. And even at the time, but like just knowing Tommy, he always made me feel just really good, like as a person, like when he was around our family, and just the type of energy that he had and the way that he treated us was always something that I'll remember, even early on, like in high school when he was setting me apart. And so really appreciated that fact about him. And then just obviously knowing that he's a successful business person. Yeah. So when I got back from my mission and was playing football, it was my junior year. He had brought me on to his podcast that he was doing at BVA at the time. And so that was my first kind of introduction to BVA, but just came in to talk through kind of a lot of different things that were going on at the time. And then as I finished football at Boise State, it was always, it's been, going along with my lifelong dream to play professionally. And so I was preparing for that, and then COVID hit, and they canceled our pro day. They canceled all rookie camps, mini camps, everything. And I'm the type of person that I test a lot better than people think, and you need to see me in person. It's better for me when you're here in person. So pro day hurt me, and didn't know what things would look like. Obviously, after the draft and not really having any camps or anything to prove anything, it was like, what does this look like now? I don't know. And so I was training kids locally, just doing position specific training and trying to figure out what my next move was, because that was always my goal. And who knows what's going on with COVID? Nobody knows anything. So I'm maybe I'll just try to stay in the game, whatever, train kids, stay active and stay involved, and maybe an opportunity will come up. But in the meantime, I also need to figure out what that looks like if not. And so I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to be around people that I could learn from and people that I looked up to in that sense. And so Tommy came to mind.
Yeah.
And as I was looking into his company, realized that two of the kids that I was training were Mark Cleverly's kids, Caleb and Cooper. And Mark Cleverly is the chief leasing officer over there. And I was like, oh, perfect. Looking at this company, I'll just reach out to them and say, hey, would love to intern with you guys, because I was finishing my last semester of school. Love to intern with you guys and just kind of learn, whatever. I honestly didn't really know fully what they did or even what commercial real estate was at the time. It's easy to know people need a house, but who thinks about, at least I didn't, the businesses that I didn't even know what it was, but wanted to be around people like that. And so reached out, and instead of doing an internship, they just ended up bringing me on to work there, and been a huge blessing for a lot of reasons. But I love what I do, love different challenges that you face every day. But again, you get to focus, especially in this job, relationships with people and connecting with people. And I get to be around great people that I get to learn from too. So it's worked out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Talk about the separation being the preparation professionally and how that pattern is held true in your life, and maybe some examples or instances of where you've noticed that and how that's helped you to obviously grow and climb really quickly. Obviously, people know who you are now, right? You're not just a dude that started out oh, hey, he was a Boise State football player. It's people know who you are now because of the reputation that you've built in the industry. And so maybe talk about your preparation and hard work and what you've carried over from football that way.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I'm trying to get there. But kind of going back to what we talked about, the things that you learn in sports carry over with you throughout your life. And that's a huge thing, right? When football's done, it's especially one of those sports, when football's done.
Yeah.
You're not playing pickup football the weekend. Maybe your Thanksgiving, flag football game, but you don't really play football.
So you can coach them, right?
Right. That's how you do it, right? And so that just that transition was hard for me, because you're right. It's really easy to say logically, oh, I'm not a football player, I'm not this or that, but getting out of this structure, getting out of these things, because your whole life at that point, especially at that level, your whole life is that. You wake up, you know what time you need to be there, you know what you're doing for your workout, you're being told what, your whole structure, right? You get into the real world, and it's work starts at, you'll figure it out, right? And so being able to take those things that you learn from sports and apply it to prepare for these things, that's where there's so many, and you'll get it from a lot of things that you do, right? But there's so many things in sports that you will carry over into personal and professional life that, if you are intentional about doing it, will carry you so much further, so much faster if you weren't. And so for me, it was coming up with that structure, that routine. What is it that if I'm not getting this, a coach telling me what I need to do every second of the day, and everything's really measurable too. Did my bench go up? Did my squat go up? Am I getting faster? Am I making plays? It's all measurable.
That's
it's
my
easy.
40 come down, yeah.
Right. It's easy to measure those things. And so that was a big transition for me too. A lot of things are not as measurable. And so for me, it was really important to still carry over a lot of structure in the sense of I know what it is that I'm trying to accomplish.
Yep.
What is it now in this phase of my life that I'm trying to grow into and become? And what helped me a lot, honestly, is, do you know Darren Hardy? He wrote a book called The Compound Effect. Really easy read, really simple concept, but I like it a lot. It's the concept is basically like small, consistent actions repeated over time create significant results.
Yeah.
And I think that holds true so much in life. Like at the end of the day, the answer 99% of the time is so simple. And 99% of the time, simple is not easy.
Yeah.
And so just being able to stay consistent in simple actions over time leads to significant results. And why I bring up Darren Hardy, the other thing that he does, he has this like living your best year. It's like a workbook sort of thing that you go through this whole 20 plus pages of, last year audit almost of like what happened last year, events that were the best, events that you struggled with, and just going through this thing of where's your key focus, and then setting three major goals that you want to accomplish for that year and being really intentional about what those goals are. And then underneath that, like setting a weekly routine of I do these things every day, or I do these things this frequently to keep me in that rhythm that are moving me towards those goals, and then doing a weekly check-in with that. And so getting that book, my dad introduced me to that book, his little workbook, The Best Year Ever thing, and getting that and being able to put that in there of, okay, what do I want to accomplish while I'm here? Where am I going with this? Like, what am I really trying to become? Who am I really trying to become now that it's not sports? Now that I'm not trying to be a professional football player and play in the NFL, like, what is it? How do I take that the next step? Because at the end of the day, like, we need to grow. We need to progress to feel happy and to be working towards the potential that we really have.
Yeah.
And so that was big for me of in that process of filling out that workbook, understanding, okay, where are my areas that I lack? And in commercial real estate, like, early on, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? It's like a fire, you're drinking out of a fire hose. Like, throw a dart wherever and you're going to hit something that I need to learn about. And so being able to structure that, like, okay, I need to understand our internal processes. I need to understand our leases better, why things are important within those leases. I need to understand how we make connections to businesses and other people that are working with businesses, bringing in deals. You know what I mean? Like, just being able to layer it and step into, okay, identifying those areas. Now, what are weekly rhythm things that I'm going to do to work towards those areas? And those small, consistent actions over time are going to lead to big, significant results. And so 10 minutes of studying a lease, 10 minutes of this, like, it doesn't need to be big things, but it's things that you're doing consistently and it's going to grow. And so that was where my focus was trying to take that thing that I learned, especially at a high level in college, playing football, and applying those principles to the career was my main focus. It still is. Like, it'll never be, I'll never reach it. You know what I mean? I'll never reach it. You're never learning. You're never done learning. And people that think that they are, I don't think that they go very far.
Nope.
Right. And so,
no, anyone that becomes a lead in anything has that same mindset of lifelong learning, right?
Yeah.
The whole reason we call it the 1% podcast, I read this book several years ago called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it teaches the exact same premise, right? He calls it the aggregation of marginal gains. If you can just get 1% better every single day, if you can spend 5 to 10 minutes every day identifying different things in your life, in your career, in your sport, whatever you're working on to become better at, then over time, those incremental changes aggregate into something massive. And if you can compound that effect over years of time, that's really what separates people in their career. You use the example of when you're at Boise State and you're training for sports, like you're going through 6-week programming, 8-week programming, 12-week programming, you're noticing substantial differences in relatively small periods of time. In a career, it's 5 years. it's 10 years, right? It's 15 years, it's 20 years. Can you do something for a sustained period of time? And those are the people that separate themselves. It's the people that are putting in the preparation, not just today, not just next week, not just, setting a New Year's resolution, not just, hey, I did this 12-week program, but it's, can you show up and do that for the next 5 years every day? Can you do it for the next 10 years? Can you do it for the next 15 years? And those are the people that separate themselves. And most of the time, you realize you're doing it because it's intentional, but it just becomes so habitual, right? It just becomes so ingrained and a part of who you are that as you compound that for years and years and years, every single person I've ever sat down with, every person I've ever done business with, or ever worked with, or ever gotten to know that's successful, the same pattern takes place in their life, regardless of what industry they're involved in. That same pattern of those small incremental gains aggregated over time, come together to a massive outcome, different change. And so, no, I love that you highlighted that because it's the exact same principle, right? And that separation and the preparation, if you can just do that every day, and I tell young people this all the time, and that's why I wanted to do this podcast, is like, okay, what do I wish I would have known when I was 18 years old, 20 years old, 22, 23, whatever, getting into a career? What do I wish I would have known, and go give that away for free? And that's just something like I echo to young people all the time, whether I'm speaking or talking or teaching or visiting with someone, mentoring someone, that the more that you can just set time aside to be intentional about what you want to do. And it's harder now than ever because there's so many distractions, right? Like you can pick up your phone intending to do something, to read something, to learn about something, and boom, you get 15 different notifications that pop up. And if you got to address this thing, a text comes through, an email comes through, social media notification or whatever, right? There's so many things that vie for our attention, and being able to focus on the things that really matter and be intentional with your time, like that is the separator. Like, can you be intentional, and can you do that for a sustained period of time?
100%.
Yep.
And it's simple.
It is.
It's not
simple, right? It's not easy. Simple things are hard. And
things are hard.
Most answers to things in life are easy, but they're rarely easy to do.
Right.
And, going on a mission was the right thing to do. Didn't make it easy, right? None of that made it easy.
Yeah.
The things that you've gone through since, none of it's easy. I do want to kind of wrap up and close, but I want to give you an opportunity to talk about your wife and about your kids and your family, about that a little bit. I got a chance to meet your wife. So I'm friends with Jesse and Jeannie. I grew up with them. Jesse McKinney, in fact, we had her on podcast a few weeks ago. I think we're having Jeannie sometime relatively soon, but they're awesome. I love what they done with Red Aspen. It's like fun for me. Like,
yeah.
It's fun for me to like see them and to, cheer them on and vice versa. But talk to us about your wife a little bit, what she gets to do, and kind of like your family dynamic. You have 2 kids, and kind of maybe share a little bit about that with us and how you and her maybe met, or like goals and plans for your family moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. No, my family is like everything. I love my wife and kids. It's like, it's the best every morning when you wake up. And, my son is, he's really talkative, but just like hearing dad, like it's just the best thing. Coming home from work and you open the door and he just comes running around. My daughter too, and like it's just the best. I love my family. I've known from when I was young. I wanted to be young and active dad. Like my dad was young, grew up playing with us, in Bam Jam and different stuff, and so I wanted to do that too. And I've just always looked forward to that. So. Love my family. My wife is amazing. She really is like a rock star, especially as a mother, like, and all the things that she does for our home. But as you're talking about like Jeannie, and Red Aspen and Jesse, she's a rock star, like in the business sense too. She's really, really, so what she does for Red Aspen is designs their nails and packages and products and different things, and works with them to do that. And very talented, very creative person. And I always enjoy like whatever it is that she does, I genuinely enjoy, like supporting her and watching what she does, because she does a really good job at the things that she gets her hands into. And so it's fun watching her do that and seeing, the kind of the things.
I was blown away. Like they showed me their space and I was like blown away because they have hundreds of these things, right? Like thousands of it, right? And like have them planned out for the next 18 months ahead of time. And
it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy when you get into like all the logistics and all of that stuff, and yeah, it's crazy. So she really enjoys that. They're awesome over there, at Red Aspen, just to your point. And so it's fun watching her do that and the things that she enjoys spending her time. She loves to create and do different things like that. And so a lot of fun. How we met, it's funny. So when I was in Fruitland, she's from Vail,
Okay.
Oregon.
Okay.
So pretty close, both small towns.
Yeah.
But we would,
not from Nissa, so.
okay,
Right
yeah,
there.
there we go. So we would take, like in 7th and 8th grade, we'd take a ski bus out of Ontario up to Brundage on the weekends. And that was where I'd met her. Like, I knew who she was. We'd never really talked. I like to joke about it. Like, I tried to talk to her back then, and she gave me the cold shoulder. And then as we re-met back in college and I was playing football for Boise State, that's the only reason she talks to her. No, but
Should have just made her wear a little early, but hey,
trust me, this is where we're going. No, I like to give her a hard time about that. But so we kind of knew each other then, and then we had re-met again at Boise State. She was going to school there. She was doing a job shadow with one of her friends, and they went to my dad and my brother's company and stopped in. And my brother's like, "Oh, do you know Kekoa?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I know him." He's like, "You should talk to him or something." Or then he's like, "Oh, I met McKenna, like you should talk to her." And so I reached out.
Brother's playing wingman for you.
He was, yeah, I can thank him for it for sure. So I reached out, and yeah, 6 years and 2 kids later, that's where we're at. It's awesome now. So
It's awesome. It's great. Any more kids in the future? Like obviously plans of staying around here, I'm guessing, and raise some more future Boise State football players, or what is that?
Yeah, right. That's the goal. No, as far as kids go, I will have as many as she's willing to have.
Okay.
I am obviously not the one that carries them or goes through all of that. I don't know how women do it. Like, it's crazy, and they're amazing for it. But as many as she's like, I love kids, and I love our kids. So as many as she's willing to have, hopefully we can
Love it.
get a couple more out of
Listen to this.
Yeah, she knows that too. But yeah, so no, love the kids, love the family. Yeah, staying around here, and just figuring it out, and growing kids, and hopefully coaching them soon.
Yeah.
My daughter like loves everything, so it's fun watching her, and she's 4 and starting young, but she's getting into it all. So
love it.
See.
Well, thank you for being here with us today. Love so many of the things that you shared with us. We'll clip up a ton of this stuff, and there'll be a lot of great sound bites to be able to share with people. But, I'm passionate about wanting to help younger people. I believe that if you can influence younger people, you're going to influence within a couple of generations, hundreds and thousands of people. And so, I want to take all the things that have made an impact on my life and people that I look at and say, hey, look, like this person believes in a lot of the same things that I believe in, and cares about those things and has great stories to share with people. Like, I just want to make those available to other people. And so thank you for being here with us today and making an impact in people's lives.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on. It's been awesome, and love watching what you're doing, watching all your content and different things. Really appreciate the example that you set as well. So thanks for having me.